All right, ladies and gentlemen, this meeting will come to order. Ms. Metcalf was not available to be here this afternoon, so I'll be the chair in her stead. I just want to read our policy on public comments. The Family Life Advisory Committee welcomes and encourages public comment. Registration to participate in public comment begins 30 minutes before the posted start time of the meeting. Public comment is not intended to be a question and answer platform with the committee members. Generally, committee members will not respond to comments made. All those registered to give public comment will be granted 3 minutes and will be asked to complete comments when the buzzer sounds. A total of 30 minutes is allocated for public comment on today's agenda. Those members of the public wishing to share additional comments with the committee may do so by emailing blackinformation@fcps.org. That's FLACINFORMATION@fcps.org. Do we have any?
We have no public comment.
No public. We have a forum. We don't have a forum.
We do now.
We do now. Yes. All right. Great. So we will begin by introducing ourselves, starting at the left.
Sure. Good afternoon. Josh Bokey of the Frederick High School Fever Pad.
Monica Cecil, the Frederick County Health Department.
I'm Katie Appleby from Tuscarora Feeder System. Krista Hannon, I'm at the Middletown Feeder Pattern.
Good afternoon, I'm Ray Gallagher, I'm the Board of Education.
Ryan Griffith, staff liaison, secondary health and physical education.
Raven Jones, Walkersville Feeder.
Then I had a Linganore, I think. I have a 6-year-old. She's in elementary school. I don't know. I can't see that far in the future. Glad to be here.
Susie White, Secretary for Health and
Team District Curriculum Specialist Elementary Health B, also staff liaison to the group.
Captain Steve Blocker, principal at New Market.
Kate Wojcicki from the Urbana Feeder.
Amy Wilhelm, health educator at Walkersville High School.
Robin Seidel, I'm the healthcare professional.
All right. So any old business? I don't see anything on the agenda as far as old business, but would anybody like to bring up any old business?
We'll do that.
Minutes, yes. I have it right here. Does everybody have a copy of the minutes from our last meeting? Is there a motion to approve them? Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
Who did you acknowledge for?
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
was it Robin? Okay. And then a second.
Second what?
All right. All those in favor of approving the minutes as they are, say aye.
Everything.
Yeah, raise your hands. Sorry. Anybody opposed? I believe we have one abstention. And marking down as an abstention for all this. All right, old business. I don't have anything on the agenda as far as old business, but is there any old business that anybody would like to bring up? All right, and then new business, we have update local data on STIs.
So we actually have two things to say. Unfortunately, with the update, we don't have the data yet. So we have requested it from, we kind of thought when this agenda was created, we would have it by now. We do not. So hopefully by the next meeting, we should have some updated information. But we do have an update on the resource that was approved, that was recommended for approval by the Family Life Committee at the previous meeting. So luckily, again, we said one of the issues with previous was the board took a long time in order to review materials. They actually already reviewed the material. It actually went at, sorry, I need my glasses, January 10th meeting. January 10th meeting, they reviewed it there. It was presented and it was approved. So less than about 2 months after we reviewed it, the board reviewed it, made a motion, and it was approved. And hopefully now it can be used in our Health 2 course. So that is, I thank the board for the speedy process. I mean, it was fantastic that it only took 2 months to go from us to them to get approved, and now it can be used inside of our schools. So just wanted to give that update on the speed of the approval process with the new process for the Board of Education. For the material. Yeah.
So when you say local, is that our school districts and who
What do you mean, sorry?
The local data on STI?
Oh, yes, sorry. For the data on STIs, yes, we requested Frederick County data. And so previously, I believe in 2017, they shared data with us by zip code, and they were able to give us that. So it's now been almost 7 years that they've shared updated information on STIs. So hopefully they are creating a new document, but they had the health department had to request that because that was created by the state, not by the Frederick County Health Department. So they did put in a request, but that was back in October. So we hope to be seeing it soon.
Any other questions? All right, so we're moving on to the next item of discussion, parent education workshops.
Okay, so those of you that were to attend our November meeting, we had discussion and a suggestion made by committee members to explore the idea of what type of resources or products could we provide to the parents of Frederick County schools and to support their learning at home and also support their own general knowledge so that they could further support their children. To that end, on board docs, I'll slip over here to the desk, but on board docs, you were also emailed this presentation and just kind of give you kind of a small glimpse of some items and I feel like I should provide proper context. So Brian will have one that we're going to share here shortly. I have one here on the screen in front of you now. Just to give some proper context to this. This was a presentation that was shared with our grade 5 parents, and if you recall, during the school year of 2021. So this was kind of heart of COVID pandemic year. Certainly we had to do things very quickly, but we had to do things hopefully in a support to our parents before making the decision to whether to opt their students out of that instruction. The previous school year, during the school year shutdown, the State Department gave every local school district kind of a pass, if you will, where most instruction, quite honestly, was suspended during that 1920 school year. And during the 2021 school year, there was no more waiver. There was no more MSDE, no matter what school system you were attending. Basically not business as usual, but you needed to provide that instruction or access to that instruction to all students as outlined in COMAR. So there was really no exceptions for that 2021 school year. So what you're seeing is a resource that was provided to our parents in response to that. Again, this is just a PDF version. I'm just going to glance in really quickly. But overall, it just describes for parents what our process is for educating a 5th grader, topics that they can expect, as well as resources and links to parent guides that we currently, even to this day, have available on our website. I'm happy to link that direct link to the public in our minutes here for tonight, just as a reminder to our community. But then the other piece of what we're trying to do to get in context with that pandemic year, we wanted to have prioritize the students as priority number 1, and certainly re-engage them with those relationships and those trustworthy conversations that may need to take place online, on a screen. We're not exactly sure who's on the screen on the other end, other than maybe a student or some bystanders or younger siblings. So we had to navigate very carefully, but then wanted to be as accurate and servicing our students as best we could at that time. But all in all, to say, when we talk about this discussion we're going to have tonight about parent workshops and how to inform parents of not only the information or the instruction that's being shared with their students, but how do we equip them as parents, not to be the parent, but to equip them as parents to help foster those conversations, help foster the follow-up, to engage with their students while they're in the home environment, even under today's current circumstances. So we had a little summary about the unit and had overviews, again, all in a PowerPoint and slide deck, very succinct, very brief, still with opportunities with follow-up. My personal favorite element of this whole entire slideshow, we had different very willing volunteers from our community pose as vetted questions, So what you see is sort of the image there on the screen, it's a little blurred and those types of things didn't transcend over. We had some folks put it in current times or masked up and different things, but nonetheless, the top 10 questions that I, as a curriculum specialist, often receive, questions that I've gathered from school buildings as to what teachers receive in terms of, as a parent, what should I expect? What do I need to know? What can I share with my child to ready them for this instruction? Or what can I share with my child if I would in fact choose to deliver the instruction myself at home and opt my students out? So all these 10 questions were real, they were authentic with the responses that follow. And again, the exact presentation was emailed to you, so you could actually click on the links if you wish to review those videos. But then the response to each of the questions were then dictated on text there on the following slide. So we had 10 questions, as I mentioned, all the way through. I want to thank the people that participated with that, whether they were school teachers or citizens or curriculum specialists or those that are in the profession. And then, of course, the links there. Again, that link that you see in the center of that slide is the link to the public website that Brian and I oversee with Susie's help also, and gives a place for parents to go to get parent guides and additional resources. In some cases, I know in the elementary, they can actually preview any of the previously approved videos that this committee has already approved, and a parent can go there and view them in their own house or whatever their environment might be. So just an idea. Now, this wasn't necessarily in response to the request of a workshop, but just to hopefully generate some cognitive juices and get those flowing for our next exercise. I'm going to transition to Brian's moment here in a second. We're going to try to facilitate some discussion groups with everybody that's in attendance today. But before we leave this presentation, does anybody have any questions for me, particularly on this resource? Okay, thank you. We're going to transition again. Can we lay this out, Brian?
Go ahead.
Again, all right. So around the room, we're going to post and we're going to bring those to your tables. And we're going to set up ourselves in about groups of 3 or 4. Brian and I are going to serve as facilitators, but everybody else, you're the voting members, we're not the voting members. We're not voting on anything, but we just feel like this is a great way for you to participate and show some active participation in this discussion in terms of centering our thoughts around parent workshop. What would that include? So we're going to post these yellow charts that come over here. There'll be 7 topics. The 7th topic will be over here, center stage next to Raven. It'll be an other topic. So if these 6 topics don't cover some of the thoughts that you initially thought would be valuable for this discussion about parent workshops, then you can go to the other table, jot down your thoughts there. So each group will take their time and visit the yellow piece of paper. You will have time for you and your group to go to all 6 stations, and you'll address these questions, which will also be posted next to the yellow paper. We're going to need to ask a reporter for every group to write out either your thoughts or your questions pertaining to each of these topics. Just around the room there, we have answering questions, tips for talking. Okay, this is tips to having discussions with your child. So a parent, think about a parent. What tips can we provide parents for talking to their parents about some of these topics in family life and human sexuality? Contraception. And on this side of the room at the tables, we will have menstruation, stages of development, and puberty. So they will be our 6 topics. The questions that we have, and they'll be here for your reference, and we'll make sure there's a question page next to each of these yellow sheets. I'll just real quickly read them off for you. Do you think this topic would be valuable in a parent workshop? What content should be included with this topic? What valid and reliable resources exist or could be further developed to support parents according to these topics? And how should the content be delivered to parents? Format of the workshop. Okay. No one right answer. Everyone's thinking here is valuable. So if you would just please center your thoughts around what we'd like to do to have a conversation around those workshop ideas for parents. And then before we rotate, I think Brian's going to rotate him, you'll be in charge of rotating. So Brian will rotate you around. Your first station will be the place where you spend the most of your time. And as you move around, you'll have a little bit less, because you're going to review what the previous table said before you got there and such. But then at the end, wherever you started is wherever you're going to stop. And we'll have one person just please report out to the group and give a summary of what's ever listed on the paper. That's a lot of through. Everybody have any questions with that? Okay. I did a tough dive. I didn't, through confession, I did not, because we didn't know who was coming necessarily. We didn't have groups prearranged. But
Let's just say we group them and put them in 4 groups of 3.
4 groups of 3.
4 groups of 3 will give you a yellow sheet, a topic. We'll ask you to rotate after a certain amount of time, and then probably the last few rotations, it'll be kind of free roaming as well. And again, as Jamie said, there will be another topic down here in the center at any point in time. If there is another topic that you would like to see as part of the parent workshop, you can come up here and put it on that sheet. You 3 start with the conversation. There are your questions. And then you want to come over with this group? And then you put it right there. No one will be at this station. Next rotation.
We're going to mark the work. Yes.
You can stand around, move around, do whatever you want.
They are, so we've had this conversation with my
So, I mean, I kind of, I think this sort of goes in and right? So like, once you're talking about.
This is not a curriculum review. Right. Yep.
So I'm trying to be out.
So the first question is, would it be topic?
I think it's probably a little bit so. Because this could also be, I mean, like I said, questions too. So they might kind of go together.
Right.
It is not connected to curriculum. It's basically just to support parents, them supporting their children as they grow up and change.
All right, so maybe for, so what content,
Yes.
maybe it, how to pair with answering questions.
AELE, right? That's right, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Like, I think so, I guess this could be like a takeaway, but then it'll be a takeaway for the presentation.
That works out. Tip sheet.
And
Tip sheet, yeah.
6 minutes for the first one. Okay, like in person.
Free for all. Just go to your section. Because yeah, we can't.
So yeah, I can. Yeah, so there's some, I think there's value.
Yep. Yep.
To share.
Understand too.
Can't make it or you're sick. Working, whatever.
No, good, thank you.
And then we said like machines.
Yeah,
Right.
kind of tip sheet.
Things like that. Right, so.
You can,
Yeah.
well, it's not an extra one.
Yeah, no, I have it.
Sources, right? I guess CPS or CPS. Let's get started.
Maybe cognitive development, do you mean sexual development?
Maybe we can revisit the value question. The rest of them,
There are other specific things in the policy that we would want to see included. I mean, yeah.
Maybe like some shows like
I don't know about how to talk to
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe like, even elementary, such.
Yeah. Something about puberty. Just like how to.
Just start
Yes.
earlier.
Yes.
The anxiety, just like.
Exactly. It's just like, being straightforward, making, letting you know that you're also nervous about having a discussion, not being too clinical with it.
Majority of the
I
discussion.
would say elementary could get us.
My daughter.
too.
I've been there.
Right.
Yeah, she goes to a degree, but
It's not, it's not, it doesn't have to. Yeah, it's a taboo or like upsetting conversation. And you kind of, you know your child.
The big part starts at 50.
To some extent, you either want to talk about or things they might find funny, they might find upsetting.
So eighth grade health. So there's a little bit of talking.
Exactly.
We'll take about 2 more minutes for this first rotation.
Like.
Alright, so I just write elementary.
And I would imagine
Probably like
Probably at this too.
they ask about something you don't offer, right? So that we need to put in.
Or two stages.
Right.
K through first, third, second,
And then hygiene.
and then third, fifth.
Okay. And the diversity of.
Interactive.
Extra point, you answer everyone.
There's so many,
There
right?
really are, I mean, maybe we need more foundation for our. And
Definitely research-based studies or
yeah.
articles.
And I think for like the
Sources.
resources existing, I'm sure there's out there.
Yeah.
They are.
I'm
just looking at
that are like,
I think too, because there's psychologists, and guest speakers, like psychologists.
It's very close. So it, like, make sure you do that. You know, you're very careful.
Be a facilitator.
I think
Online versus in person.
Oh, that's right.
Facilitator, like a college professor.
30 seconds, then we're going to rotate.
Access.
Including to like. And those are different for teenage class. I know. Yeah. So.
Okay, we're gonna rotate, go to your next station. You're gonna have about 6 minutes at this one as well, and then the time is going to decrease. Take your pen with you, thank you. You just reminded me and I feel it.
Are we going to the other?
You're gonna go in the corner answering questions.
Skip other?
Okay,
Are the questions all the same?
That way they know we can figure out.
you can use whatever, sorry.
Thank you, mother.
Should I have left this there? Sorry. Okay.
How do you start the conversation?
See,
You didn't think about anything else? You wouldn't say difficult. You want to label it as difficult questions. That's kind of separate.
I think
right on. Right on.
I think it's probably bite size. Right. Yeah, and especially
Think we're start beside it. If there is something that you like on one of the signs and you just want to put a star beside it instead of writing it again, or please put a star beside it if you like what they say.
Stars indicated green.
I don't know if they mentioned it in one of these, but like side pros, cons, side effects. Which might be included in the title, you know. I know we didn't. We just learned the like sort of pros, cons, you know, like if we take this one, we're gonna use this at the time, birth control program, we're gonna take every day, that type of thing. But we never learned about like, right? Yeah.
I always struggle with region.
And I agree.
And I mean, it's obvious, it's right away. Yeah, I always try to give too much information, I know. So I have to come back around, but like this parent guide, this one conversation, like not just how to talk with your kids, but how to encourage your kids to talk.
Oh, yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. It's like that.
These two are pretty
Well, I
similar.
guess the question is.
These two are pretty similar.
Right.
See that page?
Ryan,
Yeah.
yes, question. So we find ourselves just like over there, we have nutrition and puberty, but we kind of agree that nutrition will be its own. But here, things seem more related.
Okay, if you just want to look at that one, look at that one.
Yes, it should be in different types.
Sure, right, this is answering questions.
No. This would be your kid asking you a question about something.
So this would be us.
So this is just helping you get started with the conversation as you were going through stages of
I guess maybe.
administration contract, whatever.
Maybe like again,
And
parentheses.
what can
Something
we
like,
do
you know,
if that,
abstinence or something like that.
oh, I heard about this online. Oh, wait, I don't know about that. What am I gonna do to help me?
Yes. It's such a weird word, because I always want to say abstain, not abstain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I was thinking about that too, like if it's,
What's,
yeah, well, I guess it's more so, right, maybe it's parent group, like, within that, the different ways you can, like, if we don't have health insurance. So, right, to think there are certain, there.
You'll have about a minute before we rotate again.
We don't have health insurance or other stuff. Yeah, or something like, that alludes to that, kids not gonna, I mean, maybe the kids probably not gonna. Think about that.
So what I mean by this is like, will ask me something, if she's really meaning to ask me something else, it's just not able to bring it, she's trying to get around it.
Have that like somewhere.
Like something we can just.
Well, could that, I mean, that might be covered in, I don't know, if it might be booked. That could be
Please finish your thoughts.
like a brochure.
Hey, please remember to take your marker, go to the next station.
Oh, we're moving. We're moving. Oh, okay.
We're talking about, like, we're talking like time.
Over here?
But no, I think it's a good point that I have no idea. Because yes, obviously for the ones that are doctors, right, appointment.
And they're on media platforms, so Roblox is a good one.
Not that new, but.
Maybe that's a line like.
So.
Well, this rotation is going to be a little faster.
Number 6, it's not on the top, but it's moving, it's
No, right. Perfect. I'm glad you said, yeah.
Okay.
That's sperm, it's an egg, what happens?
You need another one? Yeah, grab one, yes, grab one of those, no problem. All right, so these two are similar. But what we wanted, how can parents start their conversation? And then after covering some different topics, now your kid will ask you something that you did not prepare for or cover, how do you answer that differently? And so, so that's kind of the difference, but we know that they are similar, but how to start the conversation, what can you do as a parent to answer that question that you may not have the answer to? So if you want to look at both, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And we want to Right.
It's going to be quick. You're only about 2 minutes left for this one.
What I'm thinking about is how when kids or anybody is exposed to information before they're ready for it, before they read it, it's also going to repeat, right? Because Right, or review this videos.
Yeah, the website, or our health website.
So I guess I feel like my message is.
Just because they're learning something.
Yeah, that's a good one.
No, I
Well,
don't. So we're gonna use it.
Again.
Finish your thoughts, please.
And then it would
Revisit.
highlight some.
Right?
Somewhere else it used to be.
And I know the other was. Yeah, we have that one.
Yeah.
Serious presentation. Yeah, like a flyer with, yeah, I would say flyer, one picture.
One page, yeah.
Right.
Others, it's like.
Right.
So,
So where do you go? Yeah, that would be like.
Okay, please rotate to your next station.
I think that's okay. Like the frequently asked questions.
So I see you guys kind of confused too. There are some things my daughter heard at the school playground. Yes, she told me about that. She went to some boy on the playground.
So again, if you have any other or over here, so there's two kind of very similar ones. That's also talking how do you start the conversation, kind of what they're looking at, but also answering difficult questions. So you start the conversation, you started talking to your child about puberty, about menstruation concepts, whatever, but then they ask you something that, I'm not ready for. Is that something that should be included? What are your thoughts? It's gonna be a quick rotation.
So,
Yeah.
I guess I need to do that.
So question marks from the kids, which is gonna lead to the.
I guess what you expect. So as a parent, what can you do?
During the health.
That was one of our bigger conversations, like moodiness and attitude, in terms of like conscious, what the conscious is.
I'm not prepared.
Both physically and emotionally and mentally.
So how did this conversation with you, the tech listeners, these kids I asked, like, you know, kind of jump with the way
That's what, yeah, exactly. Yeah, socially, yeah. Yeah.
All those things.
Yes, that start happening.
Don't be judgmental, be open-minded.
Yes.
I'm just thinking of the. Yeah.
It's what I'm doing, it's like something.
One of the things that we looked at previously.
Yeah, like that's somebody, like, okay.
American Academy of
Seniors, no, like just talk, like,
have resources.
talk about the talk to parents, not their parents.
And so that's kind of what we were thinking. So what is?
I don't know. I put it out there.
2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 12. What are some of those different things that are occurring in some of those different ages? Now, we look at menstruation,
Right,
say
exactly.
menstruation, gets men are, starts at 8 now.
Almost like,
The early onset starts at 8 years old.
could be that, or just like, here's how you can help us as we go.
And so
Yeah, that will, I feel
most
like, I
parents who have
don't know.
daughters
But I feel like that.
don't address it that early in
Because I feel like
the ages, and they wait
some
until
of
it passes. So
especially
as you said before, I actually added that to other, is, the learning process and why certain things need to be addressed at certain times and stuff like that.
How do you show that?
So that's what we're
How do you
doing with
bring it
stages of
into
development, just kind of a general overview, providing some resources, and again, American Academy of Pediatrics or somewhere else, should that be a resource?
But again, I don't know.
I don't know. I think it would be cool if that could happen.
So we're gonna take the last few minutes just as free reign, so you can go to any of the stations you have not gone to or go back to a previous station. Remember, you're gonna do a summary of your station as well. So you don't have to go back to your station yet, but we're only gonna have about 4 minutes in order to do this. Free range, move around, add your thoughts to any other, and don't forget there is another table up there if you have anything that's not listed.
Yeah, it could be bad. Yes. And so they could have leading issues.
I mean, it's very, because you can be very just like, one of this thing happens, okay? For a while. Exactly. And mark your calendar, yeah, mark your calendar, and it's, you know, the biggest thing is you can get, yes, and you'll be crazy.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yes. Or not, starving cat, it's one of the other. It's like, I don't want to eat it. Oh, that's a good one. This one's good too. Yeah.
Yesterday.
That's good enough.
Yesterday was, Patty Duke did a coffee.
Yes, in general.
Just the roam around.
So,
You
you know.
All the big ones.
I don't know yet, but I'm being.
Education for parents.
I don't know yet. You're ready? What about it? Let me know.
Well, I mean, these are parts of it, but it's
Yeah.
like,
And she
just
just.
in general, operating on social media, understanding where your information is going, knowing what your kids are doing.
Other things.
Because there's so many places that seem harmless. That,
So many, as a parent, I think we could or identify that this.
Yeah.
when I was watching a pretty good video on YouTube, where the person was talking about how the pre-teen environment has essentially been eliminated because everything's
Billions of years from now, right?
The
6-year-old.
Sure, that's tomorrow, right?
You're an adult now. Right, there's no in between, right. Right, there's no in between, so like 12 to 18, and you just bucket it with the adults and everything.
Did you date anybody?
Start with current content.
All these things.
Sure, yeah.
How did you get back to this?
Did you guys want kids? Yes.
But I mean, but it's in their mouth, especially with this. I appreciate the integration. You're saying you can't have to have a person. All the stuff, you got all these school apps. No, it's like a phone, but you have to have some interaction.
Yeah.
However, 6-year-old has their birthday. Anybody over the age of 16, any age.
Finish up your last thoughts with whatever movement where you are. We're gonna be heading back to our original group.
Nice.
I wasn't just smelling it.
Well, I see I smell like it too, I see it, I smell.
It doesn't really smell like
Yeah.
Oh, a series, not just one time.
Yeah.
When you do a series.
Story writing, a virtual interactive presentation. Who would be doing that conversation for conversation?
I think they have to be, according to that thing, they have to be trained.
Just online.
Oh,
okay.
I know they want to do the training, but.
Hey, please go back to your original station, prepare a summary, just talk with your group, who would like to report out. If the person who was writing should not be the reporter, but that is your decision. Look over your section, be prepared to share out.
I know, right?
Easier written than done.
Well, and I think, oh, actually, and something good to put on here is when to start. Because like some of this stuff starts.
Yeah.
When the
Except
child's very
we just
small,
talk
like
about
using appropriate names for body parts.
Summarize it, what's on.
You start people-
Exactly.
Yeah, right, yeah, it's just a good age walking around saying.
Raven, you can start. You're all right.
I think we're
Yeah.
good.
Okay, we're gonna start over here with tips for talking. Raven's gonna share and summarize some of the different points. You can just highlight.
You're gonna hold it, you want me to hold it up? No, you want it. Yeah, thank you, turn around. So we had tips for talking to your kids, generally about anything, so not necessarily a specific topic that was outlined here. We did agree that this was something that we needed to have some kind of workshop or parent material on. From a content perspective, just talking about making sure you're being honest with your kids, straightforward, acknowledge that both of you are uncomfortable when having these types of conversations, admit if you don't know something, talk about researching things together. There were a couple of things that were added here, about trying not to panic and being open-minded, and also offering and identifying other trusted, like-minded adults that your child could also talk to besides you. In terms of valid resources. I'm sure there's some out there, we just don't know them offhand. But I think it also could be something that's easy enough to create, especially if it was in the form of like a tip sheet or something along those lines. We also talked about potentially some recorded or video or some kind of in-person sessions where parents can talk to other parents, talk to whoever's facilitating the workshop, kind of get the jitters out about talking about some of these topics. And then we talked about there's probably books and resources out there, but just need to identify what they are. Yes.
I think it's hard to have it written down. We had an idea of pulling questions from students.
Yes, I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, and having it like a one-off flyer to get them interested in that. As hey, like a fourth grader, and then a question, like an actual question from a health teacher, because that's what we had. We had a box, and kids could drop
nice.
questions into the box anonymously. So it'd be interesting to get some of those questions from students within the county and be like, hey, do you know how to talk to your kid about? And then just have frequently asked questions.
That's a good idea.
So I'm gonna go next with answering questions. So how we differentiated this was tips for talking was to start. So that's how you start the conversation. Answering questions is, okay, your kid just asked something that you did not prepare for. How do you deal with it? And it was said yes. There are some tips here for how to address it and some resources as well. Just saying, hey, make sure you're previewing the videos, making sure you're connecting with your doctor, your health teacher, making sure you know what is being taught inside the schools as well. All great things. And then how to deliver it is actually to provide some role play and to actually do some of that, which is a great suggestion as well. So I think you could easily kind of make sure that all of this stuff is addressed at that workshop. So perfect. Thank you so much. Next one. What do you have? Contraception.
Yeah, we started with contraception, and yes, I think it's valuable. See some of the content. Again, we don't know all the content, but we talked about the video that we watched at the last meeting, and other approved sources. Let's see. We talked about a virtual presentation and a chat, a way to remain anonymous, since it's even uncomfortable for adults to talk about some of this, and the parents might not feel, super comfortable in a group in-person setting. A video, pamphlets, looks like a series of age and development. It says with interests. Let's see, the legal, and we talked about how to access, telling your kids how to talk to your kids about access, and also letting parents know how they can access or how their kids can access contraceptives.
Perfect.
So we wrote about the series just because we were thinking, as we were discussing, that it can't be a one-off. A lot of these things are so complex that the child might not grasp it on the first time that the parent talks to them. And the parent might not grasp it on the first time that they go to one of these workshops. So it has to be a series of, with continuation of,
Like building on.
building
the-
on
the
them,
subject,
yeah, and also with, depending on their children's age and development.
So I actually added that to the other as well. So just to think about what you said. So perfect. Thank you for that summary.
Especially like a secondary, like specialty when it comes to like stages of development.
Should it be, sorry. Got me thinking, we'll talk about it next time. Next section, go ahead. And if you want to combine those two, it's perfectly fine, whatever.
I'll let it do that. I guess this one, what we have is stages of development, and we said, yes, this is necessary. I think another group had noted here that, it should be combined with other topics. Then how should this be presented? We felt like, both like, digital print, pamphlets, also presentations, like not just giving them the material, but just, walking them through, since it's like a parent session, just walking them through the presentation. And we had cited an example that for me as a parent, if a particular topic was touched on during those sessions that I think I need to go back to look at, I can just go back, or not just giving them anyway the material part, walking them through it. Then the stages of development, we felt we should touch on, physical, mental, emotional as well. So we shouldn't just focus on physical development. Then the groups, like we felt for the elementary groups, we should have like 2 groups. I think K to 2nd grade and 3rd grade to 5th grade. But the middle school, I think we can have one session with the parents. Like we were just thinking, like it's just going to be so broad if we have all of the parents of this up here. So one session for the middle school and one session for the high school. Then resources, well, we felt like, maybe resources from NIH. Then I think one that we really stayed on was like maybe get facilitators from college, like psychologists and all of that. Like they already have the materials. We don't necessarily have to build the material. Like they have the resources, they have the research that they can even reference. And maybe probably we can prepare or we can get questions that around this topic, send over to them so that they know, what type of material they need to come up with. Or maybe even ask parents like a survey, right? Like maybe send out a survey, like parents, like, what do you want to hear about stages of development and all of that, so that we can have those presented to the facilitators for the session. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Puberty would be one of those, definitely. And I really like how somebody wrote ranges, puberty ranges based on the beginning age of their puberty. And so, what to expect, again, not just physically, but emotionally, socially, and all those different stages. So I really like that. So definitely incorporating that within the elementary as well as middle school. Could older students, awesome suggestion, could we have older students, high school students come and talk to parents? I think that'd be really neat. I think you'd have to figure out which students to
Yes.
I know of some really amazing high school students that could help parents just walk them through, hey, my parent did this with me.
Right, or it could be that though.
And this really helped. Like we can always get like tips from high schoolers when they were going through it or still going through it. So lots of cool things.
That's true, because life is different. Life is so different.
Yes, for them, yeah.
Mhm.
The kids in school, exactly.
I'm going to talk about menstruation. So yes, we thought there's value in talking about menstruation as a separate, distinct topic from the rest of puberty, although depending on time constraints, it could certainly fold into the larger discussion. Content to include would be biology, also cultural issues surrounding periods, hygiene, of course, and the very many different products, where to get them, maybe the economics around there, that's kind of a big issue. Hoping. And, there's a diversity of experience with menstruation. I think that needs to be brought forth, it's not the same for everybody. So what to expect, or the range of what to expect. And then importantly, if you're not a person who menstruates, how do you talk about menstruation with your child who does or will? Sources, I put Medline Plus here because Medline Plus actually consolidates a bunch of health information, includes information from the Nemours Foundation, from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Can't remember what he stands for.
American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists.
Thank you. But you can find that on Medline Plus. And then in terms of delivery, we thought it would be important to have something synchronous so people can ask questions. But I guess we said maybe online, and maybe a panel. What did I miss? I want to read some of this other because it's really good. So maybe specific to maybe something divided between covering how we talk about menstruation with those who do menstruate versus those who don't. I think that's what that refers to. And it says start at age 9 or 10, 4th grade. And then, thank you.
We weren't sure, would it be beneficial to find additional research about the age of menstruation to provide parents with the knowledge of parents start
As early as.
Yeah, and so percentages of the population. So we just brought that up, and then currently, I do believe we have a packet on menstruation on the website. Maybe we could add additional videos, the video that they can preview.
Yeah.
And if that's something they want to start a conversation with, especially if you're a male, we could maybe incorporate that on the website as well.
Our current parent packet actually does have links for males talking to their daughters about menstruation. So we actually have two separate links to that. We found some posts from single dads who were trying to figure out how to do it, and so they actually shared their experience as well. One of the other things that was in the other, again, we're happy to have a partnership with the State's Attorney's Office, and they have been sending people into our schools to talk about safety and technology. And so that was brought up as well. Can that be there? Cell phone, the relationships, catfishing, predators, identifying platforms and other encrypted apps that our students are currently using that we don't really know what they do and everything else. And it's amazing to hear Joyce King talk about some of these apps and everything else. And I had no idea what a lot of them were. And so then learning, again, what needs to be addressed when, and then also social media, the safety tracking, and general education of that information. So thank you. So what our next steps are, we're going to take your feedback and start formulating out some workshops, some information, locating some resources in order to support this. And then at our next meeting, we're going to share some of those things with you. And start discussing how we can start moving forward as a system. Again, I love the ideas about having not only in-person workshops, but also on the websites, again, as you realize what needs to go through, but that's the other discussion that I think was kind of clear. It should be differentiated between elementary, middle, and high school, which is fine, good ideas. And so we'll start formulating some of that stuff out and getting it ready to discuss at our next meeting. Am I missing anything?
I think you captured it all.
If I can really quickly, I think one of your strategies should also be looking at awareness of these workshops if they come together, because you're going to be self-selecting for parents who are very involved in their children's development, which is great. But other parents, because of societal issues, work culture, may not be as involved. And so how do we make them aware that these workshops or these resources are available for them to have and to maybe have those conversations?
Opportunities for access.
How do you,
And then specific don't know the answer.
Yeah, it's tough, right, to make people aware of an issue, and then even when they're aware, how do you drive them toward action?
To
How do you
actually
drive
come, to come to
Yeah.
the workshop.
Yeah, and to have something, let's just, have it here or up in Walkersville, is that accessible for all people? So, and making sure, yeah.
Everybody comes for food.
Yeah.
We have an
Yeah.
event. They did that at Waverly. They had like this health fair. I think they do it every year. They probably do it at other schools. But they had a health fair and like different station rotations. And you could get the information out that way and have food trucks.
And
People
the,
show up for that.
the health fair that we hold every year, somebody could come and have his place there. And they have rooms that you can do, we had people coming in and talking about various things. So if you would, I could check on that. And maybe handouts in various languages.
There's excerpts that are on YouTube. I could reach people who can't make it.
So that's our next meeting. We'll talk about all that stuff and all of those ideas and stuff, but I'm glad, please start thinking about that and start thinking about different ways to access and different opportunities, how we can provide and do a lot of these different things. Is this gonna happen this school year? Possibly, but I see it more happening. I see us using the spring as really creating a lot of these things and then implementing them in the fall. Again, this is not a curriculum resource. It is not something you have to approve, but we would like your input and kind of your check off to say, yes, let's start doing this. And then again, to the board as well, in order to have their support as we're rolling some of these different things.
I think one of the pieces we'll also try to do while the discussions are fresh in our minds, in terms of all the other 12 or so that weren't able to make it tonight, we'll push all of these posters out to you in an email, in a document that's user-friendly that you can actually add further comments. And that way we can kind of populate more responses, more ideas, more thoughts in between now and the next meeting. So you'll have time immediately following today towards the next meeting to allow not only further conversation here, to allow online, but then the folks that weren't able to attend tonight can also chime in and hopefully participate as well.
Question.
Yes.
It's kind of a combination question, but I love this idea because I like the idea of the transparency for the parents so that they know what's coming, they can see what's coming, and if they miss it or, it's like we're telling you, we're handing it out to you. If you miss it, then you're not paying attention. But, because I know some parents can't make it to all the school functions. My other question is, there was somebody wrote about, is it approved by the Frederick County Public Schools? Are those resources approved? Is there a list of approved resources?
So resources that have to be approved by this group are resources that are connected to curriculum and instruction only. So as Brian mentioned earlier, resources that are going out as parent support help do not have to be approved. But again, I think to do our due diligence professionally, we should have them vetted.
Because there is some inaccurate information out there that, you just want to make sure that you've got really solid resources and robust studies to back them up. So.
Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda, council consensus scheduling a 5th meeting.
Yeah, so as we explained at the get-go at the beginning of the year, we typically schedule 5 meetings and put them on your calendars with the idea that we're definitely want to make sure that 4 meetings occur. The 5th one sometimes happens because we have a snow out or a weather-related event, or should the council decide, hey, we have great momentum, we have good things happening, would you want to schedule it? We already have the date on the calendar, it's already been advertised publicly and such, but it can be removed. So with that thought in mind, just open up conversations or entertain ideas and thoughts about whether you want to hold a meeting. That meeting date would be May 7th. We have the next meeting is in March. Anybody have feelings or thoughts about a 5th meeting, which would be in May?
Should we pull it to a vote?
Question,
Go ahead.
we don't have one for February. In the following year, maybe, would there be more pros to keep the momentum and have one, where every other month would be almost keep momentum to have one more consecutive? I know with winter, it might not be a good idea versus for May, or is May the better option, kind of keeping it to connect to the summer and next year's? I don't know, just an idea.
You mean having a meeting next month instead of having an extra meeting in May?
The
For
only
next
issue,
year.
I see 2 issues with that.
Yeah.
No rebuttals, but just two things to bring to your attention. So I haven't announced this yet, but it's going to happen right now. So this boardroom will be undergoing renovations and such. And so our March meeting, in fact, will not be able to occur in this room. We've scheduled what's called the Ligonor Room over in our Learning and Leadership Center, which is in Walkersville. So when you hear or see in print the Ligonor Room, please be clear, it is not asking you to go to Ligonor High School. It's a name of a room in a building that's in Walkersville. Not to confuse anyone, but there's a Walkersville room over there also. But just because of the size, the space, we need to accommodate any walk-ins and
In the
public
high
comment.
school, in high school itself?
This
No,
will be-
there's a,
We'll send the address and everything. We'll send all the details.
44 West
Separate
Federal
building.
It's across from the middle school.
yes.
Oh,
The original.
yeah.
Okay.
Used to be called Walkersville B.
So that being said, I'm told the construction, everything will be completed by the May meeting. So if we did have a May meeting, we're already scheduled on the calendar to be in this room. If a May meeting turns out to be the case, we do a February meeting, we will also need to look and secure a room for that same reason. So,
Which may be a little bit difficult because there's so many people clamoring for this room, so just maybe.
Amy, were you talking about this year having a meeting in February, next year
Next year.
scheduling it
Oh,
closer
next
together?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Next year.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
I was thinking, right, can we decide about that, in March?
Yeah.
Like, since it's closer, like, we would know what we still have left on the table that if we really need a May meeting. I think April, May is good enough for us to just decide, like, okay, we don't need this many.
So decide in March,
March, yeah. I think so.
decide in March whether there will be a May meeting.
I agree with that because of the number of people that are asking tonight, also to give them an opportunity
Yeah.
to have their say as to whether or not they want to have it in May.
So we will basically table that decision to March, what I'm hearing. And again, you'll see in the meeting minutes, notification, you'll get this in email also reminding you that the March meeting will take place over in Walkersville. And we'll give you that address one more time. It's 44 West Frederick Street. But again, you'll see that in print later. That was the only other announcement I had today.
And if you can include in that, for those who are not here tonight and maybe missed the video, that we'll have the vote on the May, on whether or not we are in May.
That will be included in the minutes.
Okay. Next, future agenda items, recommendations from member participation.
That's anybody, that's kind of open question.
Yes, open.
Anything you want to bring up?
Basically, our conversation tonight, the workshop discussion, I think came out of that. We gave you the opportunity to discuss the topic, so.
Yeah.
There are other items, resources, topics?
Just one thing I've been thinking about since our last meeting, was, with consent was, and I don't know if there's already, videos or approved, things on this, but something about coercion and if there's any, somebody made the comment that a yes doesn't always mean yes, and it just got the gears going in my head about, teaching kids what coercion looks like, especially with, the stuff in pop culture, like Harvey Weinstein kind of, things going on.
And I think, and from the last meeting, we did say that we would get a list of currently approved materials. so that people aren't suggesting things that are already there. So I think this one, nice to Brandy's question.
So I think I have something else, and I think this came up from our conversation when we were going around the room, and I was gonna ask. So we touched on a conversation on, there's a content right now for like, I think 8th grade or so for contraceptives or something like that. Yeah. So my question would be that, if we looked at a video, like a current resources that is being shared in the classroom right now, and we see that, there's some information in there scientifically that are wrong, like what are the process, that we need to go through to bring that back to the table and all of that?
So I had shared that there's contraception in an 8th grade, and one of the things we talked about was Plan B, and just providing resources about Plan B and the consequences, and just in that content, making sure we have a content-specific speaker who, also shares it. But I think what is available would be shared with that consent if we get that access to that document with all the videos. So.
Also, beating my drum again, but in the whole context of the sexual, is to somewhere put in about the dangers of pornography, especially on videos, phones,
Yes,
using it as a tool,
Yeah.
and the dangers of the addiction of it.
I'm gonna write it on this other
Please
poster.
do.
Yes.
And I recognize that you brought that up a while ago.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
It's my sense.
We've gotten sidetracked. And what it is and how to identify it.
Mhm.
Parents need to be aware.
Oh my goodness, it's scary.
Anything else?
I think I heard brought up a while ago something about whether we have a wish list from educators. Like, is there, I don't know, it's just like pie in the sky, if we had time to do research on our own. I know teachers don't, like so much to do, but if there's a wish list of, oh, I wish we had X, but I don't have time to investigate, it might be nice to meet the committee, and who knows, maybe give us some time to look what's out there.
That was going to be part of my January. So January 17th, we had a professional development day for teachers last week. Unfortunately, it was modified due to the weather. I was actually giving them time, and I actually had a set of questions that they were supposed to answer, and that was one of the questions that they were supposed to answer. So I'm going to offer some professional learning community opportunities coming up in the next few weeks, where I'm going to bring some of the teachers and some of my leaders who have paid for curriculum writing and stuff like that to come together. And I do ask them whenever they are writing and stuff like that question as well. So again, the biggest thing is what we talked about, middle school puberty videos, but just finding accurate ones that are quality is difficult and diverse as well. It's one of our other issues. So, if anybody can find a good puberty video that we can incorporate, we would love to see it, because they are difficult to find for middle school. So.
I know we make our own. I don't know who would do that. Or pay for it. Pay some college students to make some videos.
I mean, you can find a grant somewhere.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any future items? All right. 5:46, is there a motion to adjourn? Anybody second? Any objections? Without objection, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Safe travels.